Next on this MLR Weekly Championship Extravaganza, exclusive interviews with owners, coaches, and players on the pitch, plus winning GM Steve Lewis in the studio with Bryan, Ray, Dan Power, and Matt McCarthy. Woohoo! Hey everybody, and welcome back to this week's MLR Weekly as presented by Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy in New York City, along with Bryan, Ray, and Dan Power. They're in the green room, plus our guest Steve Lewis, the general manager of the champion Rugby New York squad, the MLR Shield winners. He's also in the green room. And while they await or get hair and makeup or do whatever they do over there, let's catch up with the interviews that we were able to commandeer pitch side. Guy Bolton, owner of Rugby New York, the champions in Major League Rugby. That was easy.
I don't know about that. All credit to Seattle. They put on a hell of a performance. It was a great game, and what an amazing game to bring in this venue with this crowd behind us here and the fans. It's incredible. It's what growing rugby is all about, and that's what we want to do here.
And it's just simple doing it in New York City, right?
Oh, incredibly simple. Yeah, no, it's not. it's not simple at all. But look, I love the fact that we got the people that we did coming out, and we just want to grow this thing exponentially next year and just keep it going and get it going for the World Cup in 2031.
How do you think the league's going to grow in the next couple of years?
Hopefully with more teams, get some more expansion teams, and get rugby balls in as many young kids as we possibly can. Start them early. Get them hooked on the sport, because once you're hooked on this sport, you cannot stop playing. And
you had a spectacular event on Fox, live on Fox at noon Eastern Time. Big Fox, not as cable. How great was that?
How great is that? I mean, thank you to Fox and everyone like that made that happen, but it's just fantastic to get a national coverage in front of hundreds of millions of people and watching the team play and win. It's great for the sport, and that's really what we're in it for, is to get this sport on the map and get it big here in the United States.
And what a lot of people may or may not know, or likely don't know, you don't have a clue. Guy Bolton went to college in Pennsylvania, married his girlfriend, his college girlfriend, and has been living in New Jersey, working in pharmaceuticals until this whole thing with Rugby New York started. So he's a Jersey guy, all right? So he's not just some Kiwi import. That's number one. Number two, let's go to Reikert Hattingh, the captain of the Seattle Seawolves, pitch side after the loss.
Yeah, it's obviously been an up and down season for us. One moment we're out, next moment we're in. Boys pulled together, those last three games, I thought we clicked at the right time. Unfortunately, pulled the shorter straw today. New York was a great outfit. They played well, and all the best to them, and well done to them.
All right, what are your off-season plans?
I'm getting married July 31st back in Ohio, and then maybe go back home to South Africa for a bit. Haven't been home in 3 years, and then We'll see what it goes from there.
It's changed a lot.
Yeah, it probably has. Yeah.
All right, thank you, my friend. Go enjoy your night. Ultimately, this is a game. I know it's a profession for all of us, but it is a game. You're supposed to have fun. And the fact that Reikert Hattingh, a.k.a. Ricky, could have a sense of humor after such a journey and then a loss is a credit to him and to rugby players. And that's another thing we need to push in the United States, the accessibility to these players and the fact that they're okay to talk to after a match, and they'll be open and transparent. On that note, let's now go to our next interview with Sutton Sam Windsor, the Rook.
Finals footy are about those small margins, and so putting in that bit of extra time in the last couple of weeks, just simulating going through plays on the training paddock. We might be down by 2, we might need 3 to win, or we might be down by 5, and then the conversion might take us by 8 or whatever it is. It's just trying to prepare yourself as best as you can, given the tools that you've got. And Jason and I worked hard, Jack worked hard all year on our kicking, and fortunately at the back end of the year it became a real weapon for us and just kind of kept us that little bit in front to give us that little bit of cushion and take that pressure off.
Yeah, 3 guys that can actually kick for posts. Kids out there are now watching you guys, and they're making, you're becoming stars right here before our eyes in America. What do you say about the work rate, the work that you have to put into a kid out there to be a Sam Windsor?
Yeah, we've got the foundry with New York, and those boys, they come in on their own dimes, their own time, and train with us and add numbers to our training. And the level and the amount that they've grown over the last 6 months, 7 months, is just astounding. So stay patient, stay with it, work hard on your craft, ask for advice, don't be shy, and just stick in it. You know, the MLR is providing so many opportunities for local guys to get their name out there on the big stage and play professional sports. And they might not get on the field during the season, but the lessons they learn throughout the year are going to be invaluable to them going forward.
All right, well, go enjoy the MLR Major League Rugby Championship Shield. Well done, sir.
Thanks,
All right. How can you not love Sam Windsor? Just great. And I know Dan Power is really somebody that loves it. And then we had the pleasure of a candid conversation with Marty Veale, head coach of Rugby New York.
I was really proud of where the organisation's come from, mate, and from some of the early meetings that I had way back in 2019 to being in this stadium with this group of men and with the backroom staff that we've got. I never dreamed of it happening within 3 years, mate. So, yeah, just unbelievably proud of everyone that's involved.
It's been a roller coaster ride, but overall the team has been successful. You landed the head coaching job after the interim label, after your assistant coach. And then, you know, pundits like yours truly would argue that you had unconventional lineups. Everything that you did worked.
I think what we learn as coaches or educators is that you just got to understand your people, and some of the things that we did this year, I'd been fortunate enough to probably, you know, play Dylan at 8, for example, many years ago, and it worked out.
So what's next for you personally now that you got a couple of off days ahead of you?
Yeah, well, we'll celebrate this, and I'll try and catch up with my wife Emma and my 2 girls, Mary and Eliza, in the next, you know, couple of hours, and then we'll celebrate and have a few drinks and enjoy this with each other. And a lot of people are moving on pretty quick, you know, so test players are out of here tomorrow and guys going back to New Zealand for NPC, and I'll just go back to the lake and chill out on the paddleboard and go for a ride maybe on my bike, so I'm looking forward to that.
Well, you certainly owned it, and it's been a pleasure following you and watching the team. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the work that you do promoting the game. I know that you're sometimes under the pump, mate, and what you do to promote the game through your channels is awesome, so thank you again.
All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll bring in our guest, Steve Lewis, and our panelists, Bryan Ray and Dan Power. We'll be right back.
Rugby Now, delivering premier brands to players and coaches. Our quality and heritage make for a winning presentation. Your orders are guaranteed same-day shipping. Drop by our online store and follow us for exclusive content. RugbyNow.com.
Selling or trading in your vehicle? She makes it easy. With Easy Trade, start online or visit us in store. We want your vehicle, and we'll give you up to 125% of KBB value.
It's easy at Shehe.com.
And we are back. Some great interviews, fellas, but none greater than the one we're about to have, Bryan Ray and Dan Power, with the general manager of the champion Rugby New York squad, owners of the MLR Major League Rugby Shield. Stephen, please take a bow.
I thank you for your kind words as always, Matthew. So last week I was pretty much on the phone non-stop, and it was so gratifying to see so many people from the local rugby community stepped up and made it to the game, because the atmosphere made it. It was just spectacular. So local fans getting a chance to see a game like that in a final, in a good venue, correct result. So it was really, it was just one of the best days of my life.
That stadium makes those, whatever, 2,500, 3,000, whatever that number is, sound like 10,000. It really bangs. And those Seattle fans that came in, they were hurt, which is even better, right? You want that. And since we don't have a predetermined venue at the beginning of the season, 4 days turnaround for you guys to be able to pull this off was remarkable. What was your favorite moment?
From a pure rugby perspective, it had to be that Nick Mayhew try, right? We had Andy passed to Will, and there were 4 forwards interhandling Mayhew twice off the ground with a sort of acrobatic thing. So that try was a thing of beauty. So from a purely rugby perspective, that was the moment. I think the whole weekend, though, I mean, the whole game, I think you can't discuss it without discussing Andy Ellis, right? So the other very emotional moment was, at the end of the game, his fellow countrymen did a specific haka to him to respect him on his retirement. I've got to be honest, normally, right, I see a haka, it's like, here we go again, a bunch of Kiwis doing what their thing, right? This one was really special because it was directed to him. He stood there, he received it. It was a pretty emotional moment.
The team had its ups and downs, obviously, through the season. It wasn't like they were, racing away with anything. I mean, they had to make it into the playoffs to begin with. But then everything kind of came together at the end. Was this, a slow build? What do you attribute that to?
Yeah, you're right? So we went to LA and got spanked. And then we had a pretty poor performance against Atlanta at home. So there were some ups and downs. But I think, as with all like championship seasons, we came good at the right time. I think a lot has been made of bringing in Naholo and Milner Scudder later on, but people don't understand. Milner Scudder was actually signed at the beginning of the year, right? Then got a super contract, so he couldn't be here. But his contribution, his influence, his presence, his attention to detail certainly was a real contributor in that last month. And if you think about it, we went DC, Boston, Atlanta, Boston, and then Red Bull. So that was a pretty impressive string of results. We just we got it right when it mattered.
Yeah, Steve, you obviously mentioned a couple of names in Ellis on the Scudder there, and everyone's aware of that. But who was your unsung hero? Who was the grinder?
Yeah, I mean, I think a guy who, a couple of guys I don't think got a lot of love for their contributions. So I mean, Ed Fido had a great season, right? Got injured late. I think that's been underplayed, but probably the two, what you're driving at would be, to me, Brendan O'Connor in the back row, and also Jason Emery, right? So those guys were, when you're there week in, week out, day in, day out, and the contributions and the consistently high level of play. O'Connor is a warrior. Jason Emery is just a fantastic footballer. And those two guys were just like consistently good all season long.
Looking ahead at next season, a lot of good players in this team. Obviously, there's a lot of eyeballs in this team. We know Andy Ellis is retiring. How much of this team do you think you're going to be able to keep together for next season?
Absolutely. So, obviously Rick has a huge part in this. The coaches have a part in it. But we obviously want to retain the vast majority of players. So, 80, 90%, I would say. I'll be honest with you. 2 years ago, for me, it'd be like, don't sign any married players, right? Single guys, cheaper, focus. But I probably have now been convinced that there's another way to look at this. So there's a lot that plays into it. It's, their age, their performance, their financial expectations, their family, perhaps their ambition. A lot of different things play into how does someone re-sign or not.
Yeah, more specific to the recruitment side of things. Now, it's a known fact that Andy Ellis is gone. Is McManus or Buckley ready to take those keys to the New York Kingdom?
So those two guys, both young, 23-ish, but essentially young at this level, scrum halves, they came on leaps and bounds, right? They both got a fair bit of time. Slightly different types of players. That is a key question. Is one of them going to project forward and be that starter? Or are they still a couple of years out? It's an interesting one. Obviously, you need to have 3 halfbacks. Ellis is irreplaceable. So what do you do next? And your question is a very good one. Are these guys full-time MLR starters? I think they've come a long way towards that this year. So we'll see.
It was a rare day. It was a special day, but the rarity for me was seeing you, Rick Solizzo, and Marty Veale smiling all at the same time. Pigs were flying, snowballs in hell. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, 3 grumpy guys, right? Grumpy old men. But hey, I've been smiling for 3 days now, to be honest.
I mean, obviously the game at Red Bull looked fantastic on the screen, but you can't really, it's not realistic to be playing there all season. So do you have any, insight or plan at this moment, or is it just kind of see what happens between now and next season?
The latter. So JFK was great because it's not cheap, right? But we got a good crowd. But can we replicate that on a weekly basis? I actually think I'm very heartened. I think not necessarily 8 home games next year, but I think we could possibly pick and choose, maybe in New England at home, a couple of bigger ones, and we have more of a runway to sell tickets. We want it to be good. Can we, a permanent move to Red Bull would be, not quite sure we're there yet in terms of fan base, but yeah, it's probably number one problem.
Steve, before you go, you get to partake in our Sheehy Auto Store's pop quiz of the day. It's a multiple choice format. And the question is, did yours truly end up looking the way he does? A, because he was bobbing for French fries. B, is goalie for the USA dart team. C, was on the bottom of a ruck in an old boys match. Or D, didn't wear sunscreen when he was younger as a lifeguard. Steve, go ahead first.
Well, I can eliminate C because you've never been in a ruck or anywhere near a ruck. Can't actually remember A and B, so I'm going to go for D.
And I think, Steve, you are indeed our Sheehy Auto Store's pop quiz owner of the day. You get to buy me a beer when you get back from Costa Rica. All right, Steve Lewis, general manager of the champion Rugby New York squad, Major League Rugby's 2022 champions. Congratulations. Go enjoy your vacation and don't take your phone with you. All right, we'll be right back with Dan and Bryan and what we thought of the match after this.
I've been blind since I was 4, and I've never seen a beer commercial or a beer label. None of that stuff influences me. I drink beer because of the taste, and my beer is Pabst Blue Ribbon. It has the taste and the flavor.
What do you think's on the label?
I think there's a naked woman riding on a unicorn, jumping over fire. Oh, that's good beer.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
And we're back with Bryan Ray and Dan Power. Guys, epic event at Red Bull Arena. Bryan, you've got the fireworks going off, so why don't you give your perspective on what you saw?
Well, I mean, it's hard not to look past Seattle looking pretty much exhausted kind of before halftime. I mean, obviously this kickoff showing up 9 o'clock in the morning Pacific time. I mean, they came out really quickly, like the first 10 minutes, Seattle was there, but they faded pretty quickly as well. But look, I'm not taking anything away from New York. New York was on their game. I mean, I thought Emery especially, was talking about his impact. And those little grubbers he was putting in behind and putting Turner under pressure, Matt Turner there. I mean, those were, inch perfect kind of kicks, and they were pivotal in the match. So I thought that everything that, New York was trying to do, they executed on. And Seattle, I mean, they made a lot of mistakes.
Very astute observations there from my Canadian friend, Bryan Ray. I think for Seattle to have had any chance, not only did they have to play a perfect game for 80 minutes, they also did a little bit of luck, bouncing the ball here and there, referees call. They just didn't get it. I mean, the comeback was on. Brad Tucker, disallowed try there. And in fairness, it was the right call. So, Sam Windsor goes down the other end, kicks field goal, which effectively ends the game. But you've got to just give full credit to New York. Everyone knew what the situation was coming in. Seattle knew they were going to be kicking off at 9 a.m. their time. You knew that for a week. You have to prepare for it. It is what it is. New York went out and just executed their game plan and enforced their will on the Seawolves. And they played the better game for 80 minutes. And to be fair, going into the playoffs, they're probably one of the better sides coming into the playoffs, and they just continued to improve.
Who was your MVP for Seattle in this match? And then who was your MVP, not named Andy Ellis, for New York in this match? Bryan.
I'll go with Jason Emery if it's not Andy Ellis. I just thought those tactical kicks and just the way he played on that game line, distributing, I thought he was this continuation of what he's been doing all season. He's been very, very good for them, and he delivered, he delivered the business. One shaky kick, I think, but other than that, I thought he was very good. Seattle, that's a tougher call. I have to, really think about maybe Dan Creel. He was pretty solid out there in the midfield. Alatima wasn't quite at his best. I think without Duncan Matthews running those lines off him, he had a little bit tricky for time. But I thought Creel did a pretty good job of shutting down. Fuatai didn't get a lot to work with out there. Didn't get a lot of space. So maybe go with Creel, and maybe a shout out as well to Travis Larson, who I thought went pretty admirably.
Oh, Canadian eligible. Yeah, all right.
Canadian guy for them.
Dan, what's your view on that one after he completely threw Matthew Drew Turner under the bus?
Yeah, I don't know if you can throw Matt under a bus. I think he can actually walk under it just normally. So I'm going to go for the I'm going to go Nick Mayhew, just because he scored probably one of the greatest forward tries in the history of rugby. So I'll go Nick Mayhew. Butch up there as well. Stewie Geiger did a job when he got on the field. I just thought that whole pack kind of stood up, and a lot of talk about O'Connor being the unsung hero. I kind of like that too. If you look statistically at his season, he probably deserves a lot more credit. I think inside the team, they value him more than most people know.
All right. Well, what I saw was two field generals for New York out there. And it was that moment where the All Black thing came to fruition, where you had one field general and Andy Ellis in the tight part of the field, and then you had the other field general, Milner Scudder, just calling shots and dictating everything out back there. And I'm like, wow, that's how you play fullback. And I'm not knocking anybody else that's a fullback in this league, but that guy was ordering people around, barking out orders, and then he was opportunistically either banging away at a breakdown in a ruck, knocking people back, or kicking into little spaces or pop kicks. He was a weapon too. So these guys in Seattle, I thought they played very well. They were tough. I think they were up against a better squad, but I think Seattle, for those people that say, oh, LA or Austin would have won this thing, I don't think so. New York's a good squad and New England's a good squad. So my MVP though was probably Jason Emery. Again, because of all the things we talked about. All right, now, fellas, we're almost out of time, but I want to hear your final thoughts on MLR 2022. Brian.
A bit of a roller coaster ride. I think we can say that fairly easily. Yeah, I'm not going to look back in this season and say it was the best of the 5 seasons, but it was a season. It was exciting.
I mean, what were
lots of drama.
Wasn't the competition better? Wasn't the level of play better? Why? What the hell's your problem?
There's a lot of things that I think that could be worked on and off the field, and I think we'll build next season. But I kind of think that even next season is going to be building towards the season after that, and maybe we're trending in the right direction. But it was dramatic. It was different. There was lots of interesting things, no shortage of things to talk about each and every week. So I think as a sports fan, that's all you can really ask for. And the playoffs delivered, the final delivered. So absolutely thrilled that happened, and certainly looking forward to next season. And, looking for a little bit of a break now to kind of chill out and recharge the batteries before we get into, because who knows how many teams we're going to have. We're going to have 14 teams next year. We're going to have 13. We're still waiting to see what happens there. So an exciting offseason to look forward to.
Hey, and you also got your guy getting the Marcus Callaway Award in Andrew Quattrin.
Yeah, great. And a terrific list of candidates throughout. How do you pick anybody? They all, from all accounts, all those guys do tremendous amount with the community. So it's fantastic that Anero has picked up the inaugural award. Maybe fitting, seeing as they spent a lot of time in Atlanta last year. So certainly credit to Andrew Quattrin for everything that he's doing in the community around Toronto, and credit to all the guys, again, whose name was on that list.
Daniel, final thoughts on MLR 2022?
Well, I think Brian wrapped it up absolutely perfectly. Lots to work on, good foundations here for the league to build on next year. A lot of things probably were brought to the surface that we may not have had the opportunity to look at if they weren't. So hopefully we won't see a season as exciting off the field as it was this year, but certainly looking forward to the next 6 to 8 months here with the build up to 2023.
And hopefully next year we'll all be able to afford decent Wi-Fi to do these kinds of shows. And Dan, just for the folks at home, just one final thing. Can you explain the new look?
Yeah, listen, you know, when you adopt an East Somalian killer caterpillar into the family, there's only one place to keep him safe, and that's right on your top lip. It's going to be a more dangerous Dan coming up this year. So Gorgeous Dan might be packed up, and Dangerous Dan could be making an appearance. So look out.
All right, Wawas and Quick Checks and 7-Elevens all over the world. Look out for Dangerous Dan Power. All right, thank you guys for a great season. Not that we're done talking Major League Rugby, because we ain't, but we just are completing the 22 campaign. And I want to thank you for your toil, your time, your patience. You guys have been absolutely great making this easy. And I look forward to these things more than you know. Thank you, Dan Power. Thank you, Brian Ray. And thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks to Steve Lewis and our guests on the pitch, Guy Bolton, Sam Windsor, Reikert Hattingh, and Marty Veale. Please check out our other shows, and please hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Sign up for our weekly newsletter, and please, please, please join our American Red Cross blood donor team.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you the 2022 Major League Rugby champions, Rugby New York.